Automated trading versus manual trading is one of those debates that sounds technical on the surface, but is deeply personal. Once you've lived through enough markets, because the real difference isn't software versus discretion. It's how responsibility, emotion, and control are distributed when money is on the line. I've traded manually through the dot-com bubble, watched algorithms tear through liquidity in 2008, and seen automation explode during COVID. And if there's one thing experience teaches you, it's that neither approach is inherently superior, but each one amplifies a different set of strengths and weaknesses inside the person using it. And ignoring that truth is how traders get hurt. Manual trading feels honest. You see the chart, you interpret the context, you make the decision. When you're right, you know why. When you're wrong, there's nowhere to hide. Early in my career, this direct feedback loop was invaluable. It taught me how markets breathe, how price behaves under stress, how narratives fall apart in real time. Manual trading forces you to confront uncertainty face to face, and that builds intuition in a way no backtest ever can. But it also exposes you fully to your emotions. Fear, greed, hesitation, revenge. They all sit right at your fingertips, and if you haven't built discipline, yet manual trading doesn't forgive you, it magnifies every flaw. The biggest advantage of manual trading is adaptability. Humans can integrate information that isn't easily quantified. Tone shifts, regime changes, liquidity, drying up sentiment, turning brittle. In 2008, many automated systems kept doing exactly what they were designed to do, while the market environment fundamentally changed. Manual traders who survived weren't faster or smarter, they were more flexible. They stepped back, reduced size, stopped trading entirely when conditions no longer made sense. That kind of discretion is difficult to code and impossible to automate fully, but that flexibility comes at a cost. Manual trading is exhausting. Decision fatigue is real. You are asking your brain to perform complex, probabilistic reasoning under emotional pressure repeatedly day after day. Over time, even disciplined traders slip. They hesitate when they should act when they should wait and rationalize behavior that would look reckless on paper. Manual trading rewards self-awareness, but it also punishes inconsistency brutally. Automated trading, on the other hand, promises relief from those human weaknesses. A well-designed system doesn't feel fear or greed. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't revenge trade. It executes exactly what it was told to execute every time. That consistency is powerful. For certain strategies, especially those that rely on small edges, repeated many times, automation is not just helpful, it's necessary. Humans are simply not built to execute thousands of statistically marginal decisions without emotional interference. However, automation introduces a different kind of risk, one that's far less obvious to newer traders. When you automate, you move the emotional burden from execution to design. All your assumptions, biases, and blind spots get embedded into code. If those assumptions are wrong, the system doesn't argue, it accelerates the damage. I've seen traders trust algorithms they didn't fully understand because the backtests looked beautiful, only to watch them unravel when market conditions shifted in ways the model was never built to handle. Automation doesn't remove responsibility, it delays its consequences. Another overlooked issue is illusion of control. Automated traders often feel safer because they are not actively clicking buttons, but that distance can breed complacency. When losses occur, they feel abstract at first, and that abstraction can delay intervention far too long. Manual traders feel pain immediately and often react too fast. Automated traders feel it too late and react too slowly. Neither extreme is ideal. The real challenge is knowing where you sit on that spectrum and compensating accordingly. There's also the question of learning. Manual trading teaches you through exposure. You see patterns form and fail. You feel regime shifts in your gut before you can articulate them. Automated trading teaches you through data. You learn by testing, measuring, refining. Neither is better, but they develop very different kinds of understanding. Traders who start fully automated, without manual experience, often struggle to know when their system is broken versus merely experiencing normal drawdown. Traders who stay manual forever often struggle to scale or to remove themselves emotionally from execution. What most people miss is that automation and discretion are not opposites. They are tools, and like any tools, they must fit the hand that uses them. The danger is not choosing one over the other, it's choosing one to escape responsibility. Some traders automate because they don't trust themselves. Others trade manually because they don't trust their systems. In both cases, the underlying issue isn't method, it's unresolved psychology. As the years went on, my own approach evolved. I stopped thinking in terms of automated versus manual, and started thinking in terms of where structure belongs and where discretion belongs. Rules define risk. Automation enforces consistency. Human judgment decides when conditions have changed enough that rules must be revisited. That hybrid mindset didn't come from theory. It came from watching pure discretion fail under emotional stress and pure automation fail under regime change, and realizing that longevity comes not from picking a side, but from understanding what each approach is good at and where it is dangerous. And this is where the real question starts to matter, because deciding between automated and manual trading is not about technology or sophistication. It's about knowing yourself well enough to choose an approach that complements your discipline instead of exposing your weakest habits. And that requires a deeper look at the specific pros and cons of each style, not in abstract terms, but in how they interact with risk, tolerance, time, commitment, emotional profile, and market conditions, which is exactly where we need to continue next, as we move from broad perspective into practical comparison and honest self-assessment. And that transition begins right here, as this thought carries forward into examining when automation truly adds value and when manual control is irreplaceable, and how to decide which path or combination of paths actually fits who you are as a trader rather than who you wish you were, when markets are calm and everything feels easy and predictable. And that is where we continue next, when we break this down piece by piece and make it usable rather than theoretical by grounding the choice in reality rather than fantasy. Because the biggest mistakes I've seen come from traders choosing automation or discretion based on what they hope it will fix instead of what it will actually expose. Let's start with automated trading, because its advantages are very real when used correctly. Automation excels at consistency. If your edge depends on executing the same rules over and over without hesitation, automation removes the human tendency to interfere. It's particularly effective for high-frequency decisions, statistical arbitrage, and systematic strategies, where no single trade matters much on its own, but the aggregate does. In those environments, emotion is a liability, and machines do not feel. Automation also scales. A system can monitor dozens of markets, simultaneously execute across time zones, and operate without fatigue. For traders with limited time but strong analytical skills, this can be a powerful way to stay engaged without being glued to the screen. But this is where the first hard truth appears. Automated trading demands far more work up front than most people expect. Designing a robust system requires deep understanding of market mechanics, data, quality execution costs, and regime behavior. If you don't know why a system should work, back tests are just historical stories told with numbers. The downside of automation shows up when conditions change. Markets evolve. Liquidity regimes shift. Correlations break. A system that performed beautifully in one environment can quietly decay in another. The danger is not that it loses money temporarily. Drawdowns are normal, but that it continues operating under invalid assumptions. Automation accelerates whatever edge or flaw you've built into it. When it's right, it compounds. When it's wrong, it does so relentlessly and without hesitation. That's why monitoring and periodic human judgment are not optional. They are part of the system, whether you admit it or not. Manual trading, on the other hand, shines where context matters. Discretion allows you to respond to news sentiment and structural shifts that are difficult to quantify. You can choose not to trade when conditions feel distorted. You can reduce size intuitively when volatility spikes. You can step aside entirely when the market no longer resembles the environment your edge was built for. This flexibility is invaluable during crises, and it's why many discretionary traders survive periods where rigid systems fail. But manual trading places enormous demands on you as a person. You must manage attention, emotion, and energy constantly. You are the weakest link in your own process. Even experienced traders fall into overtrading hesitation and inconsistency under stress. Manual trading rewards self-awareness and punishes denial. If you believe discipline will always show up when needed, manual trading will eventually disabuse you of that belief. The most sustainable approach I've seen over long careers is a hybrid one. Rules define what can be automated entries, position sizing basic risk limits. Humans decide when those rules should be applied or paused. For example, a system might generate signals automatically, but discretion determines whether the market environment supports acting on them. This structure captures the strengths of both approaches. Automation enforces consistency where consistency matters. Human judgment intervenes where context overrides rules. Choosing the right balance starts with honest self-assessment. If you struggle with emotional execution, but enjoy research and testing, automation may suit you, provided you commit to ongoing oversight. If you read markets well, but struggle with impulsive execution, partial automation can protect you from yourself. If you crave control and clarity, but lack time, fully manual trading will likely exhaust you. There is no morally superior choice here, only better or worse fits. I also want to address a common illusion: automation does not make trading passive. It shifts the work from the trading day to the design and review process. You trade less during market hours, but you work more around them. Those who treat automated trading as set and forget usually learn the hardest lessons. Markets are adaptive systems. Your approach must be adaptive too, whether it's coded or discretionary. At the end of the day, automated trading versus manual trading is not a question of technology, it's a question of responsibility. Who or what is responsible for decisions, and how quickly can that responsibility respond when reality changes? The traders who last are not the ones who choose a side, but the ones who understand their tools deeply enough to know when to trust them and when to step in. If this perspective helped you think more clearly about automation versus discretion, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you can keep learning from real market experience rather than marketing promises, and leave a comment sharing which approach you're currently using and what you find hardest about it, because those struggles are often signals pointing toward the adjustments that will matter most over the long run.